How are we, buddy?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
It's been a while.
It's been some time, hasn't it?
It has been a while. We're going to be kicking off with Jimmy Galvin soon from Aqua Rugby.
I'm really looking forward to speaking to Mr. Galvin.
Well, I think he's a bit of a like-minded cat, to be honest with you. He's been in the business world, the music scene, and now he's creating a sport. So I'm keen to see how that came to fruition, who he's working with, and what the goal is.
Yeah, definitely. I'm interested to know about his also DJ career and the record label and music events business that he's got, which sounds, mate, it's right up my alley.
Yeah.
Yeah, keen for that. And not only that, what is Aqua Golf? No, Aqua Rugby. Aqua Golf was last week, sorry.
Yeah, mate, I think it'll be a good one. I mean, described as, imagine Hong Kong Sevens meets the Monaco Grand Prix. That is right up my strata.
Oh, mate, 100%. I heard there might be mention of super yachts as well, so
There you go.
that's it.
Stick around for this week's Lifestyle Pirates. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Lifestyle Pirates with me, Big J, and him, Adriano.
G'day.
It is awesome to be back, and we have a very, very overdue guest this week, Jimmy Galvin, founder and CEO of Aqua Rugby. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. It's great to be here.
Good
Mate,
to see you.
It is great to have you here. We are, 3 months behind?
Just slightly.
I don't know what's been happening in the world, but anyway.
There's a couple of hurdles.
Couple of hurdles, mate. Yeah, I mean, in the event space, how have you found COVID for you guys?
Challenging.
Yeah.
Probably one of the more testing periods for events, sport, those industries, music, entertainment. It's been rough for everyone on a personal level. Really difficult. I found this second Sydney lockdown more difficult than the first one. We had to reschedule our event, Aqua Rugby, and it took a big toll in all respects. Zapped the energy. It zaps you emotionally, because when you're looking forward to a certain date and then COVID plucks it out of your grasp. It's exhausting, and I know so many people in this industry who have had to change dates, who have just had to put things on hold or cancel, and it's destroying.
Yeah, and certainly I know some of the guys, we've got some mutual connections in the festival scene, and when they've got to bug around with acts and flights and visas and accommodation, it's not just moving the date by a few months. There's a lot of moving parts in that world.
For sure, and the perception is that it can hurt your brand as well, and automatically you're thinking that of something that you've built over time, that in the flash of an instant, it can make you look bad because you're having to cancel or you're having to shift stuff. But I also think there's an understanding from the market and ticket holders in general that we've just gone through something just so bizarre, and there is an understanding there. I feel.
Yeah, and I think you bang on the second leg seemed to be a bit harder for people. I think for me personally, the round one, if we can call it that, everybody was in it. Everybody was learning at the same time, suffering, adapting, pivoting, all those terms that we heard. Round two, certainly here in Australia, it was a bit of a different scene, and probably still continues to play out a bit differently with certain states opening up before others, and I think that did take a toll on a lot of people because there wasn't that kind of nationwide and maybe even global empathy of what people were going through. So it was tough. Yeah.
When COVID first hit, there was some novelty about it as well. Like, oh wow, we're in a lockdown for the first time in our lives. And this second round, we thought we were all out of the woods, and unfortunately in Australia, where our vaccination rates weren't where they needed to be. Yeah. So it kind of threw us backwards behind the world. We became the leaders of how we dealt with it to the backwards country who didn't get vaccinated. So it's an interesting one.
So what was the last 3 months for you like in the event space and, preparing everything for Aqua Rugby?
It was interesting.
Yeah.
We wanted to make sure with Aqua Rugby that we kept everyone on board. Yeah. We didn't want to lay anyone off, and it was tough because it wasn't the right time to be marketing an event when we didn't. Once we'd rescheduled it, or we were in the position where we didn't know if it was going to go ahead before we made the call. It was just the wrong thing to do. The mood was low on online or wherever we're marketing, and it was pretty tough once we'd made the decision to get our operations and motivate an operations team for an event that had psychologically prepared for a date in November. pick up and move that to March where your energy levels are. It's a big ask. So it's been a learning curve on my end how to deal with that with people, and everyone reacts to these things differently as well. So you learn a lot about yourself as a leader of a company when you're faced with these sorts of things and date changes and stuff. But it's been interesting at least.
Yeah.
So we've mentioned a few times now Aqua Rugby. What is it, please? It sounds amazing.
So Aqua Rugby's a concept I've been working on for, it's probably been about 5 years now. It was born in a pub with myself, Bernard Foley from the Wallabies when he was still playing for the Wallabies and his cousin who I was living with at the time. And we'd seen some versions of games of rugby played upon a pontoon, and we're like, how can we do this better? Yeah. So essentially what it is, it's a floating game of rugby which is played on a 30 by 30 metre pontoon where players can get tackled off the side and they have to dive into the water to score. And we've come up with the rules. Well, when it came from there, Bernard caught up with Shawnee Maloney, who's a commentator with Channel 9, and we got them in the pub together next to go, what are the rules? And how we've how we've just made it this bigger, larger beast than it was when we first started is we've actually got 5 of Australia's top super yachts lining the pitch, where you can buy tickets to be on board one of those. And, the shoreline's filled with food trucks, and we've got bars on the beach, and we've got events at surrounding venues like the Manly Pavilion, which is a ticketed event there as well. So it's grown into a massive 2-day floating festival with awesome music acts. And, it's been a wild ride to see it come into what it is now. And we're really lucky to have some great sponsors on board who have supported us in doing it. So, for example, you look at sort of Manly Spirits who are hosting the Manly Pavilion event where all the players will be, so you're rubbing shoulders with the players. You can go on board the Four Pines yacht, who are one of our major partners. You can go on the El Jimador Summer of Margs yacht, so it's margaritas flowing all day on that super yacht. And we're not talking dinghies, we're talking 100-person, 110-person capacity super yachts. It's incredible. It's going to be a sight, that's for sure.
I'm almost crying now.
Yeah, you had your used super yacht, didn't you?
Yeah, super yacht, Big J and I, mate, we're in the mix.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Well, mate, I like the bit on the website where it's like, imagine Hong Kong Sevens meets the Monaco Grand Prix. And I was like, this is cool. This is cool.
So back to the rugby part, right? You said 30 by 30, right?
Do you know what rugby is?
No, I don't.
Back to the rugby part. I'm more of a football fan.
No. I'm more of a, it's end to end because it's 30 by 30, so that's a square. So can you score off any end, or does that have to be from?
You have to score on the ends, and we've got corner posts on the side, and you have to dive inside that corner post. And we've actually got cameras on the inside, and we're fortunate enough to have a broadcast deal, so it's going to be on one of the free-to-air channels as well, and they're doing the whole production behind it, and we're having a lot of fun with it.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So recruitment, how do you pick teams? How does it work?
Yeah, a good question. That's something that we tossed up a lot over, and where we landed is where we wanted to show the diversity of rugby, and that's what I think rugby union does as a sport so well. So we've invited specific teams from the rugby community. So we've got a national Indigenous team. We've got the Sydney Convicts who are a men's gay team. We've got an army team involved, and we've also we've got local teams from around Manly and got that community factor going as well. Most of our suppliers, our staff, everyone around the Northern Beaches who have been hit specifically very hard by COVID. This is the third lockdown for the Northern Beaches and Manly. And if you take a walk down Manly at the moment, there's a lot of shops with police signs. A lot of businesses didn't survive COVID. So it's our prerogative to try and inject into the local economy with what we can do there. And we're also inviting teams that are from that area to get their involvement and community involvement.
That's fantastic. So how does the day look?
Oh, it's not great on my end.
Super yachts.
Super yachts, yeah. It's just super yachts.
So it's just one day, or is it?
It's 2 days. It's 2 days. So it's 2 separate competitions for both men and women on the different days. So you're always going to see a winner at the end of the day lifting the Aqua Rugby trophy, which we actually put it as a vote to our Instagram followers to pick the design. Yeah, dangerous. Yeah, I was worried for a bit there with some of them. But the day looks like it depends what you're doing, and that's a great thing about Aqua Rugby. It's got something for everyone. So if you're a couple that has a young kid, we've got a kids activation with inflatable sort of activities, which is run by a company called First Fives, a guy called Salesi Manu. And so you can drop your kids off and then go to all the food trucks on the shoreline and enjoy it all for free, and watch the action from the beach just like you do with the surfing. Or you can go on a super yacht where you get picked up from a place, just around here actually, from Casino Wharf, one of our wharves, where we'll have a marquee, and you check in, you get your lanyard. You have to take your shoes off on a super yacht. So one of our suppliers who are giving us the turf for the pitch, Tough Turf, they have a blue carpet where you take your shoes off and you go on board the blue carpet to get on board, greeted by drinks, and then the most incredible thing for me is seeing the people that have supported us, whether they're there for corporate networking or they're there to support us as a business or just have a bloody great day out. You get on board there and you've got live music, you've got an MC and some rugby greats who we're going to keep that part really casual, with an MC and rugby greats talking about things on the boat for maybe 5-10 minutes. And then
maybe some podcast hosts, mate. Maybe we should do live broadcast. I'm a big fan of Ghost. I'm quite comfortable on Ghost. We could be in the hot tub. With the other
he's already starting with the hard plug. I told him not to, Jonathan, I can't take you anywhere.
Sorry.
You'll have to battle it out with SEN Radio, who are got the broadcast rights, but I can try and get you a slot on there.
You're too kind, mate.
So you said earlier this was like a 5-year fruition. Now, you must have had people going, Jimmy, you're nuts. What are you doing? This is a stupid idea. Walk us through that. How did you overcome that? Tell them to bugger off. Like, what was that kind of process like?
You never tell people to bugger off when they tell you can't do it. That's what fuels everything with this idea, particularly. It's been days where you just go, oh, maybe I am mad. Maybe this is stupid. Had one yesterday, but no, it's a really good question. Even convincing my parents at one point that this was what I was going to pursue, they couldn't quite wrap their head around. And it was a ballsy decision, but I'm glad I made it, because I'm doing something that I feel like is fulfilling sort of my identity now and who I want to be, and I'm learning a lot more as well. Not saying I hadn't in other roles with Cricket Australia or other businesses I've run, but this one and the scale it is, and the planning that's gone into it, it's awesome, and I'm glad that. You always remember who told you this was stupid and you can't do it. I've had people. I've had people when I first went on sale with tickets. Mates of mates and things like that leave voice notes saying this is stupid, and you're there going like, man, this is my life, But that you never forget it, and that's what drives you to make it even better. Yeah,
and mate, they'll be the ones, because how are tickets going?
We're 92% sold out now.
Yeah. So they'll be the ones at the back end of Feb going when you're sold out and you're like, can I get a ticket, buddy? Have you got a spare place on one of those yachts? I've just seen what they look like, and you'll be, sorry, who are you? Who are you?
Yeah, no, they'll learn one day. But I think also, no one's seen anything like it before, so you can't judge people too hard on it, because we haven't had the chance to show what it actually is, and that's been really hard marketing this event. We don't we made a mini pitch one day to try and get some videos and marketing collateral. But until people see the broadcast on television and we've got tons and tons of photos from the day, people will then understand what it actually is. So I think you've got to take it with a grain of salt that any feedback like that you get as well.
Yeah.
So sorry, John.
It's all right.
You want to go first?
Always.
I didn't know it was your turn.
No, so my question was going to be, what came first? Because I know you live in the Northern Beaches. You live in Manly, don't you?
I do.
You mentioned a lot about the community. A lot of your sponsors are from that as well. So what actually came first? Was it I want to do something to bring the community together? Or was it the sport and then that was a second piece? Because you've done this, you mentioned about Cricket Australia. You've obviously run By Your Side as well. I think that's still going. So you're well seasoned in that world of corporate running events and I guess bringing people together, which I think is just one of the most amazing gifts that anyone can do in whatever world. What was the first bit that you were trying to do?
Thanks for that as well. That's exactly what drives me as a person, bringing people together, and it's not about me at the end of the day getting any glory for throwing an awesome music festival or an event like this. It's that feeling that you take a step back and while the event's in its absolute beast mode, you're going, that is beautiful.
Yeah. It's art.
Yeah, it really is.
And I thought that as well when I was looking at the marketing video on the website, because you've got these big, I think Phil Waugh's on there just like catching the ball, then being shoved into the harbour, which is like, well, fair play.
We had a fun day filming on the super yacht, that's for sure, for those that remember it.
Yeah, sounds horrible.
Those ones can owe me a drink, I think. But to your question, we actually, in our early days of forming the business, and we're in the final stages before we registered with ASIC and the likes, we had a strategy session, and we had a couple of strategy sessions in a row to say what the why behind we're doing this. And we had our key, I suppose, stakeholders at that time involved, which was the likes of Bernard Foley, our chairman, Shane Anderton, Jeremy, who was in the pub there with us that night, and people who were part of those early stages, our marketing director, Mark Syed. And everyone had the key reasons of why we're here and why we're invested at this early stage, and realising what it was going to take in the next steps. And it came down to two things really, which was supporting rugby union in Australia.
Yep.
I'm a rugby man through and through. Love my cricket as well, but I think the first words out of my mouth was Bledisloe after the Bledisloe Cup before I said mum and dad. And that's no shit.
Wow.
Just we love the sport. Bernard's particularly passionate about giving back to the sport that gave him so much.
Because he's still in it as well, isn't he? Doesn't he? He plays overseas still?
He's in Japan at the moment.
Yeah.
He got a call up to the national side and turned it down recently, which he's still playing great footy, and he's just such a great bloke to work with. We're very lucky to have him on board. But I suppose rugby and growing rugby and growing its profile at the time we started, it was actually in a pretty dour place. The headlines weren't great. I think the whole Israel Folau saga was going on, and it was pretty dire. So that was probably first and foremost. But then the second approach was giving back to Manly, a town that's struggled not just through COVID, but before the summer before that. The tourism industry in Manly was completely depleted by the bushfires when we were covered in smoke for months.
Of course, yeah.
And so I've been meeting with James Griffin, the MP for Manly, for years now, trying to get this off the ground, and he has been incredible to try and help us get this to where it is, because Manly probably needs this injection. And imagine on the broadcast the drone cam going over the top. Like what we're doing, we're building the pitch in Western Sydney, fitting it out with all the signage, all the goalposts and everything, and floating it down the creek where it's being built on, and it hits a tugboat, and we tug it under the harbour bridge and make the journey. We're going to have helicopters above capturing it all.
That's so cool.
And then anchor it down in Manly, and for the Manly community to be shown off to the country and the world, this will be a great benefit, and we really hope it is. It's what we're working towards. But to answer your question, rugby union and Manly, they were the two ones.
And what were some of the other whys around the table? Because is everyone from a rugby background, or?
Predominantly, yes. In the early stages, we were all rugby lovers, and that's what has drawn so many people to the business. And much of our early staff was from Manly, with front of mind wanting people from Manly. But we found much of our staff have come to me personally. They've either hunted me down on LinkedIn, got my number from someone, and said, I really want to be a part of this. And when we hit our absolute limit with our budgets for the team to bring it forward, there's guys like a guy called Ryan Middleton who's come over from England, that's worked for Harlequins, a rugby club in England. Mm-hmm. He's just said, I'll do it for free. I just want to work on this. And that's the passion and fortunate position we're in our first year. We've got our first annual board meeting tomorrow, actually. And we're just so lucky that because we identified that in our strategy sessions early on, that this is why we're doing this, I feel like those things have happened quite naturally after.
I found over time, if you have a very clear why, and it's an ethical or moral why, then actually the almighty dollar does take a bit of a backseat.
Yeah.
So if it is
big
community
time.
led, or if it's trying to raise the profile of something, then money becomes a secondary factor, and then people will just be involved in something that is, well, quite frankly, a first in the world and pretty revolutionary.
Absolutely. And when you've got your why sorted, it puts you in positions you never thought you'd be in as well. We do have to be commercially minded with the project we've got, and I think that's something we've proven to a certain respect without even doing our first one, with the great sponsors we've got on board, and the interest we've got in it, and the amount of tickets that have sold 4 months out. But you're spot on. We're having fun while we do it because we know why we're doing it.
So speaking of fun, practice, how does that happen? Since there's no real like field to practice on, how do you practice a game like this?
So we've done trials up on Queenscliff Beach in Manly, where there's a nice solid section where we mark it out and test the rules. We've got meetings with the referees tomorrow night, and we've handpicked some all-time great referees like Stuart Dickinson, who's reffed Lions tests and things like that. It's really cool. We're just getting together, having a beer, and saying how do we best represent referees who are underrepresented in rugby. Everyone thinks of the players or the coaches.
Are we going to fly Nigel Owens over?
Yeah, we could. Yeah, I think he's busy on the farm at the moment.
He retired last year, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, so I think he's breeding cattle and teaching Welsh to old Welsh rugby players. But yeah, it's cool to have that impact on different parts of rugby. But also, one thing I've always been super passionate about is equality in women's sport. And I'm really looking forward. We're working with Build Corp on doing a clinic in the week leading in, specifically for girls and women to get involved with the sport. And that's something that I really learned a lot from Cricket Australia in my time there, and I think they do it better than anyone.
Yeah.
And Rugby Australia is still doing a phenomenal job. It's one of the fastest growing. I think it is the fastest growing sport in Australia. So that it's nice to have an opportunity to have a bit more of an impact than we probably initially anticipated.
Yeah. So you mentioned rules, and you're sitting down at the pub and you came up with some rules casually. How do you come up with rules for a game that doesn't exist?
It helps when you've got the Wallabies fly half sitting next to you before he goes off to play the World Cup in Japan. A lot of drills that he'd done in his time where he's going, no, we did this drill where this worked well because it had this many people in a ruck and then it allowed this many for open play. We literally locked Bernard Foley and Sean Maloney in a pub and let them go wild. And they certainly did. And they've done it really well. It's all the fastest aspects of rugby. So no scrums or line-outs. Restarts are really quick. It's just a tap and go, but it's tackle rugby. It's contact, and it's just got added excitement of people flying off the side or diving off the side to score. No kicking in general play. We want to see ball in hand, and we're working with our ball supplier X-Blades to make a specific ball with extra grip, so there's not as much drop ball when it hits the water. We've got people on those stand-up paddle boards as our ball boys and girls getting the ball as well, which is pretty cool. So, you lock the right people in the room together and get them to collaborate on how to make the most exciting, entertaining sport.
And I'm all right in thinking it's not 15 aside. If it's only 30 by 30, how many per team?
Yeah, 6 aside.
6 aside, yeah.
And then as people are tackled off the side or score tries, the referee waves on some of the reserves that are on an auxiliary pontoon on the side. So it's just go.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So it's short matches, 5-minute halves. And some of the guys that we've got playing probably need that, Wendell Saylor was the first to put his hand up. Actually, he reached out. Well, Drew Mitchell's in charge of our recruitment process, and we got a message from Wendell just ready to go. I think he's been in the gym a bit, so he'll go all right.
It's probably one thing in lockdown is as everyone's been doing the online boot camp at home, so they're probably ready to rock and roll.
Some have, some haven't. I can promise you that.
So, talk to me about your corporate world and running by your side as well. What skills and I guess lessons did you learn from them to then transfer over into launching Aqua Rugby? I mean, you've got one thing that's very impressive on the website, you've got some pretty big brands. I mean, MJ Bale for one, you've got some very good brands. You mentioned about the local ones like Manly Spirits and stuff. What did you take over for them to get them whipped up and involved? And then I guess, keep those relationships going because you've obviously delayed it from November till March. And
yeah, it's been an interesting one and can be a tough balance for me sometimes as well, because I suppose electronic dance, like music or music events generally, my music label, By Your Side, does a lot of deep house, techno style events, which get a rap, which is, they're troublemakers or they're a nuisance or they're loud and annoying, they generally get a bad rap. So
should try being in a trance community.
Yeah. too high a BPM for me, mate. But I suppose you just stay true to yourself in whatever world it is, and as long as you're comfortable with yourself, you're fine. You don't change from one world to the other, and you're honest with people. You tell people, I run a music label and I do this, but I think I definitely learn a lot from commercializing sports. I learn a lot from doing an MBA as well, and a bit of time I spent with Real Madrid and in Madrid there. As a result of that MBA with Torrens University, just how to commercialize events and do it tastefully. And I think from the music world, I learned to do that at a young age. I was throwing big parties from when I was sort of 21, 22, and doing it in my way. I think it's a blend of that.
So did you study at the Bernabeu?
Yeah, well, we did I did a placement in Madrid and a master's placement with Real Madrid for a couple of months or so, and it was just mind-boggling.
Yeah. It's crazy just hearing about that.
Yeah,
and that's when you were with Cricket Australia at the time?
Yeah. So
how did those two worlds meet?
It was a relationship that the university Torrens has with Real Madrid.
Yeah.
And CA Cricket Australia was so supportive of it because I came back with a whole heap of intel that could benefit our hospitality program or partnerships program. But that's why Cricket Australia was a great company to work for.
Yeah. Did you meet any players?
I did actually. Luka Modric.
Sorry. Oh,
yeah,
no way.
Yeah. We met and Roberto Carlos. Who,
stop it.
Yeah. And Xabi Alonso. They're the only three. But
Get out.
But I also I met with the managing director. Like that's how much access they gave us.
Man, that's so cool.
Yep. Yeah. So I got the best books I've read have been recommended from him. And it's when he says something, you listen and you do it.
So where do you want to take Aqua Rugby? What's the end game? Well, not I don't like to talk about it like finite, but like where do you want to take it?
We're in early conversations. We're quite progressed at the moment to franchise over to Perth after Sydney and Auckland as well, Gold Coast and Hong Kong. We're pretty far down the track with landing those after seeking some further investment in the company to get us there. And we've got the relationships there, and that's where we see ourselves with events running over the course of the year in 4 to 5 years. We see enormous growth for us around the time that the British and Irish Lions come in 2025, and we'd like to see ourselves as an add-on travel package for the 30,000 fans that come out here. Yeah. And we're speaking with the Lions about that, who have been fantastic. Yeah. It's quite far down the track, but you got to have those conversations early. And the end game, it's easy to think about now, but from what I've learnt from this journey in the year that we've been in existence as a formal company, or the 5 years that I've been trying to make it happen, is that opportunities pop up when you least expect. So I don't want to limit myself of what the end game is. Love to get it to the States. Love to take it to the Caribbean and make it have a touring arm with it.
Yeah.
I'd love to make it a professional sport. There's so much we can do with it. So the next 4 years are mapped out pretty well, and they've got to be if we're seeking investment, and we need a clear path. And then after that, I think it's measurement time. See what we've achieved and where we want to go then.
Yeah, awesome.
Is it as tough on the athletes in terms of physical? Obviously, they've got to be physically fit, but
you can drown.
That's one of my questions. It was kind of one of the reasons, not the drowning piece, but just in terms of rugby it's traditionally kind of a bit more of a brutal sport.
Yep.
You haven't got the kind of rucks and scrums and mauls and everything, but in terms of those tackles into the water, and I can imagine not everybody's a spring chicken across all the teams.
Yeah. One thing we encourage, and we'll have briefings with the players as we lead in, is just this is played within the spirit of the game. Now, this is an entertainment event, but it is a sporting spectacle as well. So we're encouraging our players to find that fine balance of not to let this become a piss take and to play at a decent standard. But in terms of aggression, let's be super mindful of that. So we've got some briefings coming up where we're addressing exactly that point of finding that fine balance, but also coming up with pre-planned moves and tap moves and fun things to make the crowd go wild on the shoreline. And it'll be complemented by some awesome entertainment acts that we're looking to lock in at the moment. Things like guys on those water jet packs doing a performance to opera and stuff. Yeah,
because you could have some amazing halftime shows like the Super Bowl. Yeah. That's how much I know about these.
Anything outside of anything outside of soccer?
Football, not hand egg.
and Formula One.
Yeah, that's it.
And so who is your audience? Who are you trying to get involved in Aqua Rugby?
It's quite general, and it's broken down by what experience you want out of it. We want any entertainment or sports lover, but when we say entertainment, you might be a foodie lover and you really want to get one of the tacos from Chica Bonita on the shoreline and just check out what it's about. You might want to watch a DJ that's playing near the big screen or something. We don't want to just narrow ourselves into sports fans. And our clientele on our super yachts are really reflective of that as well. We've got, it's definitely a 50-50 split of men to women of who have booked tickets of the experience they want. So we have defined our audience dependent on the experience it is. And when you're looking at the super yachts or some of the ticketed events, it's either a corporate crowd or a networker, and it is priced accordingly. I won't hide from it. But that's why it was so important to us to have the shoreline of the festival, just like they have at the surfing and everything, free to the public, and to get that taste of Aqua Rugby. We're not a it might look like it with 5 super yachts lining the pitch, but it's going to be a blast on the shoreline too when you've got the same view.
So everyone that's listening and watching can have a sticky beak at these super yachts. Who have you locked in, or what are their names?
We've got Ghost 2, the super yacht.
Yep.
We've got Mystica 2 as well.
Yep.
We've got a super yacht called Corroboree. Trying to think. Oscar 2 is another one. Yeah, One World. We've got the top super yachts you can get your hands on, and that's big thanks to a company called the Yacht Life, Joey Crutch and Sam Dunleavy, who are our yacht agent and partner in Aqua Rugby.
Yeah.
They're a Northern Beaches company as well. They're a young couple that had their first kid, and they've just killed it for us in those tough tasks to get all 5 of those in the same spot after rescheduling.
Yeah.
I thought I was losing my hair. Poor Sam. I had to put the heat on him, but they came through so well. So if you're ever thinking of hiring a yacht on the harbour or getting your hands on a super yacht, they're the people to call.
He knows his wine as well, Sam.
He sure does. He
knows his wine.
Yeah, he's got his wine business. Yeah.
So it sounds like to the untrained eye, it sounds like a huge festival.
It sounds amazing. I mean, where can you get tickets, by the way?
Well, I was actually pretty upset because it was in and around my birthday, which we know is a big birthday this year.
Yeah.
And March is now it's insignificant to me. I'll still try and go.
Mate, speak for yourself, mate. I'll be there.
I know you'll be there.
So where do you get the tickets, by the way?
www.aquarugby.com, and you'll see in the tab on the left there where to find tickets. You can find out the teams playing. You can find out everything to do with the event there.
Yeah, cool. We'll leave the link in the description as well.
Cool.
Absolutely right. Why? I heard you on another podcast. You were talking about some winners' jackets and things as well. I'm known for a blazer or two. So can you describe these jackets to us? Have
You did win them, John.
I know the players are going to win them. I can't win them.
Yeah, we're working with MJ Bale on, like they do in the golf when the winners get provided their green jackets.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the trophy ceremony. It's going to be hilarious. But yeah, the captain gets a winnings captain jacket. We're meeting with MJ on the designs. We've put some ideas through, but I think I'm sworn to secrecy on the designs themselves at the moment. I went for tartan, but I got hushed over. So the marketing team were all over it. No one trusts my fashion sense anyway.
Now, you mentioned earlier on about getting investors on board for the next 4 years. Yeah. This is obviously 5 years in the journey. How have you been turning the lights on? How's it been funded? And is it kind of government grants or personal investment?
We haven't got any government grants to date. Would love some if you're listening. It's at when we weren't registered as a business, it was just out of my pocket, and Bernard put his hand in his pocket as well. And then as we registered as a business, myself, our chairman, and Bernard put some cash in to get us through until we were on sale with tickets and had some money through from sponsorship. And the advice, we're very fortunate to have the advice of guys like Mike Canaan, who's a financial forecaster. And we've got a guy on board called Stu Hunter at the moment who give me the data and advice I need to make the decisions we need to. But yeah, before we were anything, we were just funding it ourselves, and then some of our board have put in cash to get us through to when we're generating revenue through the business, through sponsorship and tickets.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. And so the guy James Griffin you mentioned.
Yeah.
What's his interest been in terms of is he trying to open doors for you as well, or is he just saying, yes, Jimmy, you've got my seal of approval, go ahead and put some boats on the harbour?
Oh no, he's been much more hands-on. He's wanted it to be the spectacle that Manly deserves. You know, he's looking down the Corso each day like we are in Manly and seeing some pretty sorry sights. People, you know, are doing it tough, especially in the business world in that town. But he's made some great introductions for us. He's introduced us to some great people for us to know for the event. But yeah, his support of us through any level of government when working with RMS to make sure the waters are safe, to work introductions with Northern Beaches Council and his support there for booking the space. He's a really great man, really great leader as well.
Yeah. So we had in last season we had a good friend of ours, Damo, who does Electric Gardens, and he was talking about, I guess it's the thing as a spectator you wouldn't see, you know, booking security, toilets, all that kind of stuff. Is there extra layers for that? You know, one of my things I thought was lifeguards, and the Manly Ferry just came to my mind as well. Like, have you got to? You're not going to be in that way, but is that something you've got to take into consideration?
These are all sorts of things that we take into consideration.
Have I just given you more things to think about?
No, I'm pretty sure they would have thought of all that stuff.
We're all over it, mate. No, but you're right. There are things you learn along the way, like protecting the seagrass in the areas the super yachts could be around, and how we have to get more temporary mooring blocks in and make sure we're not affecting the seabed. The conditions of what makes it unsafe to play or unsafe for super yachts, and know what that threshold is. Getting the naval engineering reports to do so and back it up. There's a lot that goes into it, but once it's done, what I encourage our team is that once we do year one, the hardest part is done, and of course we're going to learn our lessons and the likes. But because no one's done this before and on this scale, this is going to be tough, and we're writing the blueprint for it. So it can only get easier, hopefully.
So will there be a by your side at the sort of music stage? Is that what it's going to be? Come on.
Are you angling for a gig? You don't play techno?
No.
I think year one we're going to keep them separate.
Yeah.
And just make sure it's all focused on Aqua Rugby.
Yeah. Fair enough. Because that'll be an awesome little side hustle you could do there.
There are some talks of a dance party happening at a venue on the Saturday.
Yeah.
Can't confirm that one yet.
Yeah. Well, my inbox is empty, so because it hasn't happened yet.
You're going to be playing trance, are you?
Yeah, of course, mate. 140 bangers. So tell us a bit about By Your Side. How did it come to fruition? You said you started doing events when you were 21, 22.
Yeah. I was. I suppose it started out when I was throwing events in wine bars around northern Sydney, and just small, really intimate parties that started to grow a bit of a following. And I think our big break, if you will, we started doing an event called Two Up and Techno on Anzac Day at the Chippo Hotel.
Yeah.
And that just has turned into an annual behemoth.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we really grew a name. And since then we've toured some great acts. We've done some great parties. We've done some really shit ones too. Yeah. But that's part of being a promoter.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's a grind. And I was worried over COVID for the promoters of Sydney because there was no support for guys that do promote events full time in a really tough time. So I definitely know the grind of it, although it might not seem like it at times now that I've got Aqua Rugby and that. It's a tough world to crack it, but I feel like I've learned a lot of lessons from that. But I think something so great about that is the scene itself and the people in it, and you know, the great nights and conversations you have.
Oh, mate,
it's the best.
And the mates. That's how we met. We met on a boat. He was DJing on one level, I was DJing on the other.
Oh, mate,
it was a super yacht, you know.
It absolutely wasn't.
No, it wasn't. No, it was a dinghy, mate. It was a 2-story dinghy, though. It was a nice dinghy.
Sounds good to me.
The bathrooms were vile.
Yeah.
But you make some great, and I think that's what. Because I guess for me personally, been on quite a similar journey. I've done corporate where I've worked in partnerships for, how long I've been here? Best part of nearly 12 years now. Yep. Then actually to meet people when I first moved here, I created a night called Digital Therapy, which was house and prog and trance, because that just opened up another community.
Yep.
Now we're doing a podcast, and again, it's all kind of circled around
for sure
helping people, learning, bring people together, running a networking community as well. So it's very similar kind of journeys. And I was so fascinated by the story around, one, creating a sport, two, how, as I say, kind of successful it all looks in terms of bringing those people together, some heavy hitters, and then going, well, right, how are we all then going to move it all forward? And I guess for me, being from the UK, I look at international sevens and rugby sevens. Yeah. Hong Kong sevens, that's a calendar one as well. Yeah. Probably one of the benefits of the Melbourne Grand Prix moving, because they're now not on conflicting weekends. So technically, you could do both.
Very true.
Yeah.
But,
thanks for the heads up.
No, well, Hong Kong sevens and the Melbourne Grand Prix is a good shout, but they all kind of feed into each other.
Yeah.
Hence my question earlier on. So
yeah, no, they do, and they all come back to what you're passionate about.
Yeah,
it's no two ways about it, and that's where, even on the tough days, as preachy as this sounds, you're grateful.
Yeah,
doing what you want to do. You love sport, even if it's killing you some days. Look at what you're doing. You're creating a new sport. You're speaking to Drew Mitchell to head up your recruitment for players, and people are putting their hands up to be a part of it. That's the best part, but because it's your passion, and it's what drives you. Just like music, it really is as well. I think people just need to really follow it. Although, it goes the same in the corporate world. You don't have to, just because it's corporate world and it might not be your own business, doesn't mean it's not your passion. Just make sure what you're doing and your role in the company is something you want to be doing, and have the conversations to get yourself there.
So have you had that moment, for lack of a better word, that fuck me moment, where you were just like, you're looking around, all of the things that you've created, it's starting to come together. Have you had that moment yet, or are you going to have that at Manly?
That's one of the things that concerns me about Aqua Rugby is that moment. I reckon I'll burst into tears. I'm worried for the after party too.
Kick-ons.
No, that's sometimes what motivates me, is that imagine the night you're going to have at the end of this.
Yeah.
Because we're going to deserve it.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
that can also be one of the bad traits about being in the events game, is because it's got an end date. You put so much emphasis on it, and not enough emphasis on take a deep breath and look what you've done.
Yeah.
I've had plenty of those moments. I've had plenty of those phone calls. I've had plenty of those fuck me moments, as you say, that you can't believe what you're doing. But I've had that with music as well.
Yeah.
Where you've seen a full dance floor, or you guys have had it DJing to a crowd where you're like, oh,
Yeah.
yes, I'm in the right place.
Yeah, it's an amazing feeling. Eh?
It is. So, but yeah, I think a lot of that will come through on the 4th and 5th of March, and we're going to be an emotional mess.
It's going to be difficult because you're going to get that post-event high, aren't you?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, what's next?
Well, that's why we've booked in the next one
Yeah,
already. Can't get complacent.
Yeah,
we've earmarked November 2022 with a shorter turnaround with 2 in Manly in the same year. So that if people do have a great experience, they know there's not that long between the next one, but that's where we really want to be in the Sydney calendar. Because after that, in Perth, we'd like to be in March for the start of the Super Rugby season. And then it just kind of works with the flow of how we want to transport this pitch around to different places logistically, and what tour is going to work best for that, and that's its own beast looking down the track. But I think they're the sort of conversations that make me excited, knowing that the CEO of Hong Kong and Hong Kong Rugby wants to see us there, and that's really cool when you look down the track and are able to tell that to a potential investor that it's happening.
Yeah, we had a moment in our last season where one of our guests who's done Hendrick's Wine Bar in Crow's Nest, they wanted to create a 17 by 17 sandwich press because they wanted 17 by 17 jaffles, and they realised that actually nowhere can you do that. So they go on one hell of a journey to create this jaffle maker, right? How did you come out with, and who did you call to make a 30 by 30 grass pitch that's going to be floating on the harbour? Like, what was that phone call like? Did someone just go, "Oh, you're stitching me up here"? Like,
yeah, who do you ring for that?
How did that go?
I'm definitely not sharing that contact.
Oh, right, okay. But did you get
Yeah.
laughed at? I guess did someone put the phone down?
He didn't. He's unreal.
Yeah, I got one out back.
Yeah, but plenty of people have laughed at me. But I think also we've handpicked who we want to approach, because a lot of the companies, contacts, suppliers, we've done our research on, and we know they're going to come back and say, "Shit, I don't want to miss out on that." And not even in a salesy way that we've had to put it. It's just honesty. This is what we're doing. This is what we're attempting. And do you want to be a part of this journey from the very start? And you don't want to miss out on being there on event day, seeing it on the Thursday night on Channel 9 from the choppers and stuff, and knowing that that could have been your brand on the pitch.
Yeah. And to keep yourself even busier, you're a host on is it Clutch TV?
We've moved on.
I mean, have you
from
not
Clutch,
got
any
other time?
Yeah.
Sorry, buddy. Yeah, we can come back to tunes, but I mean,
do
you just not like sitting still?
No, I've gotten better at relaxing, to be honest. I've needed to. I did a great show with Charlotte Mortlock on Clutch TV, a company run by Gus Seebeck. We were really lucky to host a show in a pub at the Glenmore Hotel.
Brilliant.
And yeah,
a lot of your things come from pubs.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? And yeah, it was awesome. I'd done a little bit of work in media in that world. When I was young, when I was 16, I hosted a show on community radio, a sports show, and I just kind of kept it going. I love interviewing people, as I'm sure you guys do. It's just such a fun way to get to know someone when you are being recorded. As you know, I think a different persona comes out, or if you're the one asking the questions, it's really interesting. So I was in that world of rugby that I loved. There was a gap in the market for a club rugby show on the Shoot Shield, a competition I truly believe in as an awesome provider for grassroots rugby. Last year was awesome, and next year we've signed a contract with SEN Radio, Drew Mitchell and I, to host a Sunday rugby show on Sunday mornings. So that will be a bit of fun.
That's cool.
And we'll have some. I mean, if you know Drew Mitchell, you know that's going to be pretty wild for a Sunday morning. That is. But yeah, no, it's awesome. It's a passion.
So what's your I mean, you're clearly a massive rugby fan. One, what got you into rugby, and I guess two, what's your thoughts on where rugby union's at the moment? Because you're right, it did kind of take a bit of almost went on hiatus a little bit. Where it disappeared off the TVs and even the press, and Union's not famous for that grassroots over here, I've noticed.
It was when I was growing up. It was huge when George Gregan and Larkin were all running around the golden days. But they can't last forever. We've seen that with our cricket team as well. I think rugby's in an incredible spot at the moment, and with a new broadcast deal on Channel 9, who are doing a great job of that coverage, opening up to a new market, a free-to-air market. It's an awesome opportunity, but it goes to show, after some brilliant performances in the recent rugby championship, that when you start to win games, the fans come back. And rugby's a particularly fickle sport. You really do need to do it, but they've done it in style. And for me, not just the Wallabies team, but the women's team and the characters involved and the way that they're carrying the women's game and the professionalism of them. I'd love to see that grow further, definitely, especially with some of the leaders like Grace Hamilton in the team that are the Wallaroos captain. But over across the board, I think there's some really, really exciting times ahead for Australian rugby. We've got a Lions tour coming up in 2025. We've got a potential World Cup in 2027. And we're playing great footy and we've got a free-to-air broadcast deal. So if that momentum keeps going, this sport will keep growing. And it's I didn't mean to rhyme there either. I just love it. I absolutely love it.
So it's day after the event, maybe the day after the day after.
Yeah.
Okay.
Horizontal.
What's happened at Aqua Rugby? What's it look like?
Oh, look, it's been a beautiful March day for one. Please. But the main thing is everyone's walked away with it with a smile on their face and saying that was worth my time getting down there. That it's safe. There's no incidents. It's a result on our end or poor planning. Anything that was avoidable has been avoided. But the main thing is people have walked away from Manly Cove going, shit, that was professionally run and I had a really good time, whether I spent money or I spent my afternoon there. Perfect.
As a result.
Now, I've had to change my question for season 2 as well.
Oh, I'm still not finished.
Oh, sorry, mate. Go on, crack on. Sorry. I'll have some more water.
Well, look, because I know that you wear multiple hats, right? And me being a producer and a DJ, I just wanted to know what the last 3 months looked like for your music business. Since we're opening back up now, are you going to start doing events, music events again? I've seen that you're a DJ at Sash as well.
Yeah.
Are you a resident there? Do you do that often?
No, not a resident at Sash. I think when you get a chance to play Sash, you enjoy it. Yeah. They're terrific at what they do. I definitely will. I'm in those conversations at the moment. I don't know if you know a guy called Robbie Lowe, one of the all-time Sydney House legends.
100%.
He's
a legend of a bloke as well.
He's a bad man. He's just a lovely, lovely man, and I've got a lot of stuff in the works with Robbie and working with him closely, who's now taking more of an interest of not just being a DJ, but working with me on some outlandish events. So I'd probably say that the regularity of by your side events is going to stretch out a bit. But the production levels and the caliber of event will be larger and better, and the acts we're getting in will be bigger.
What's your confidence like in the music industry now in Sydney or Australia for that matter? Because it can be just shut down instantly. Like, how does your confidence go in putting an event on in the music industry now?
I quite honestly think it's been appalling how shunted that industry's been. Yeah. Live music has just been forgotten about in the toughest time ever. And I also know that just across that scene, a lot of people in that scene have existing sort of mental conditions, whether it be sort of loneliness or depression. It's where a lot of art comes from.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's it like for my confidence? It doesn't give me confidence at all. Just even seeing the new laws that have come out, but it's everyone can wear a mask and stand up and have a beer now, except nightclubs.
I know. I couldn't believe that.
It sucks. And we need to be better at recognising this industry as a genuine industry. It's an industry that brings in tons of dollars for tons of venues. And the stigma needs to be lost amongst politicians and leaders in our community. And look, I know that there's roles for nighttime mayor and things like that coming up. I hope they find the right leader to actually make a change.
Yeah, because the Netherlands have a nighttime mayor, don't they?
Yeah,
looks after just nightlife and everything
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
They need that here as well.
And make sure that
because it's a whole other economy that we're missing out on.
Yeah,
you know?
it's just it's a shame, and it comes back to that stigma I was telling you about before. When I tell people in the corporate world that I run a music label that does major events in deep house and the likes, and just making sure that it's a genuine conversation. It doesn't have to be naughty. You play deep house. It's not.
It's funny you mention that because I've actually kept that off my LinkedIn intentionally.
Yeah,
you know that I'm a producer and assigned to labels, and I just don't mention it because I just don't want to have those conversations with some people.
It was a step for me to embrace it on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is. I think it's an incredible tool, but it doesn't just have to. It can be a reflection of yourself, and should be a reflection of yourself. So, I'd implore you to change that up.
Yeah.
Well, that's the conversation starter sometimes as well, isn't it? You know, I see you do this, and that's really cool because I'm actually into that, and we're all human, right? Like we've all got. We can't all just love our work and live for what we do at work at 9 to 5. You've got to have other things that get you whipped up.
Yeah, I'm sure you could have worse things on your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, sorry, I was going to say, I know for me in lockdown, I was having a mix back there. You know, many a Friday night, you were smashing Twitch. And the memories that it was bringing back for me personally, whether it was through running digital therapy or just DJing somewhere or just the tunes that you'd hear with your friends and that would take you back, that was hugely powerful for me.
Yeah, massively.
Of an evening. I mean, a glass of wine helped as well, but it was just amazing what then happened for me personally, just how I then felt afterwards, the endorphin rush of, I remember that time or that festival or going to the Winter Music Conference here or playing in Ibiza here. Like it was very, very powerful. So
100%.
Great feeling.
If you can't have that stuff, and I know that a lot of my mates in hospitality are exactly the same because people that own restaurants are naturally a host and they like to serve people. So when you can't do that, that then starts to play around with them.
It's funny you say that. I had a mate tell me he went went to visit his girlfriend, and one of the housemates during lockdown was a chef, and she just wouldn't let anyone else cook over that time. That's it's tough, and I really hope there's change for that in the live music industry. It's about bloody time.
Yeah, I agree. Continue, John.
After you've still got questions, I can see you've still got questions.
I was going to ask, what do you think that needs to change in this industry? Like, what would you do?
Yeah, geez, it's a tough question. I think there just needs to be a little bit more trust in people. I think it's a tough one because I think there were some overreactions to certain incidents over the past few years around drug taking and the likes, from irresponsible drug taking or unfortunate accidents that we've seen in the past with coward punching. And I feel like sometimes that maybe instead of taking a deep breath and having a discussion with the community to make sure we get the best strategy of how we avoid it, it's been the book's been shut down and said, no, we're not giving you freedoms anymore. And I think it's about clawing that book back up and opening those conversations, but with the right people and with the right people in charge, and using data and to do that, and making an open discussion, not behind closed doors.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're on the money there because a few of those knee-jerk reactions that happened, you know, you look at the outcome that's come from that, and it's almost like there was a little bit tailored, you know.
Oh, yeah. I won't even go there.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not going to go into that. Favorite artist?
Oh.
Let's talk Deep House.
Oh, yeah. Love Francesca Lombardo. She's fantastic. She's very, very cool. Really like an artist called Mr. G. He's a bit sort of old school. Larry
does good burgers as well.
Yeah. Look, I love a whole range of stuff. Over lockdown, I actually I've gone through a phase of listening to a lot of reggae, and when I'm doing work on Aqua Rugby, I listen to jazz. It's all changed up, and but yeah, all-time artists, it's a tough one. I like listening to different labels and things like that, so that can be a range of artists on them. But,
the genre jazz hop Have you heard of it?
That's a thing?
Yeah.
That might be my new working
Look it up.
soundtrack. Yeah.
It's on, if you look up Spotify, just Jazz Hop, and it comes up all these playlists. It's fantastic. It's like jazz with like a hip hop sort of beat. It's fantastic. Yep. Trust me, you'll love it.
I'm getting it up tomorrow.
Yeah. Listen to the playlist as well.
Yeah.
You're on, John.
Thanks, mate.
Got to be careful with my words around here with you too.
So, mate, I'm going to ask, what's one thing that you've learned in the last 12 months that you are now going to take forward into Jimmy Galvin, the rest of 2021, into 2022 and ongoing?
I definitely think that rest and recovery has been something that I've learned, learning when to switch off, learning when to take a break from your desk, go for a walk, get a juice or something, just switching off. Used to smash 6 hour work sessions in a row because thought that was the only way to achieve what I needed to. So I think just having that break and just taking a deep breath when things do get hard and having that break has probably been one thing I've learned as things have gotten to the real pointy end.
Awesome.
It's a good lesson.
Very good lesson. Very good lesson.
I need to write that one down. Luckily, it's recorded.
Well, mate, thank you very much for taking the time to come on Lifestyle Pirates. I know it's been a long time in the making, and we were keen to get you here rather than on Zoom. So definitely. I appreciate your patience. For anyone that's listening, tuning in, how do they get in contact with you? How do they, perhaps, if they want to partner with you guys, what does that look like? How do they engage?
Yeah, for sure. Feel free to shoot me an email at jimmy.galvin@aquarugby.com. Feel free to check out the website, aquarugby.com, and our socials, Aqua Rugby Oz, whether it be Facebook or Instagram.
Yeah, we'll leave all the links in the description.
Awesome.
Thanks very much, Jimmy.
Mate, appreciate you coming on. Wish you the best of success, and I look forward to being on one of the back of those boats.
So glad we did it in person. Thanks, Thanks for having
100%.
me.
Cheers.
Cheers.